What is up, everyone? Thank you once again for sliding into the Pixel Playground. This is the much-awaited Final Fantasy VII Rebirth spoiler cast and discussion. My name is Matt Llewellyn. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Tori Pines, and the Frenchman, Frenchie himself. We're going to start, and I'm just going to toss it right to you, Tori. Man, we're going to get into the games we played. We got a lot of stuff to talk about afterwards. But what have you been playing, man? What's been going on with you?
I'm so happy this is over. My video game life of playing other games can start again. I'm so happy. We're done. We're fucking done. Okay, fuck this game. I'm done with this game. I don't want to play it ever again. No, I'm kidding. I might come back to it later. I don't know. We'll see. But no, I've been getting all the Nier Automata endings. There's 26 in there, and I got all of them except for I think Y. It's the alphabet A through Z.
Are you Y? Are you save scumming?
What?
Like, are you save scumming? Like, do you have a set like save that you can go and get different endings from, or are you playing it through like all the way?
Oh no, you just go to chapter select and you do that. So you just
Okay, I see.
Yeah, that's how that one works for Automata. I know. Okay. I know that Frenchie did like he bought them all or something. I don't know how that works on the PlayStation, but on the Switch you can't do that, which is great. But yeah, the Y ending takes forever because one of the characters, Emil, who's from Nier Replicant as well, you have to like literally go digging and like
spoilers for Nier Automata, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not really that big of a. Yeah, I guess it is. Sorry. Anyways, but you got to go spelunking and find this like little house, and then you have to do all this stuff. It's like I've been watching a YouTube video on how to do it, and then you have to get all the weapons and upgrade them all. It's a real pain in the ass, but I love the music, and I'm glad to get back on it. But besides that, Cuphead, threw that into my Switch. That game is freaking awesome. I'm glad you guys told me to try that out because the artwork in that is amazing. The gameplay is really fun. And then I just threw in Bayonetta the other day because I've never played it and I have it for the Switch, and that game is freaking awesome. I just love platinum games. I think platinum games are just like, they're all freaking amazing. So I'm stoked about video games again.
They're all pretty good. Have you done the Transformers one that they made?
Was that
it takes place in like a city and you just drive through as like a Transformer.
What is it called? Is it Transformer? I think it was. I think I got it for the PlayStation a while ago on like PlayStation Plus, but no, I really.
Let me look it up. It is Transformers Devastation.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I tried that one out. Yeah.
I think Tori's the only one playing Babylon's Fall right now.
Babylon's Fall.
Yeah, that's how well known it is. It came out and it got canceled in like a month.
Really?
They tried like a live service game and nobody played it like, at all.
Oh, really?
Platinum.
I play all the games that no one plays.
Yeah, it died within a year.
Oh, really? Wow. That's a bummer.
Like probably within 6 months. It was shorter than that.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll go next. I've just been going around to my old standbys, some Street Fighter 6. I'm entered into Evo again this year, so I'll be going in July. So trying to do a little train up of that. Although Akuma is dropping on May 22nd, along with like a giant balance patch. So I'm kind of taking it a little bit more casually and just doing like, a little bit of situational practice. So set training mode dummies, practice my anti-airs, practice my, counter hits, my whiff punishes, things like that.
Why would they do that right before Evo? Why would they drop Akuma?
It's 2 months.
Evo?
It's 2 months.
2 months.
Listen, the lab monsters will figure everything out by the time Evo comes, dude. It's
all right.
It's pretty insane. But that one's a mindless one. I can listen to podcasts and do that. My little sports games or whatever, I can do those as well. Fortnite, obviously, play with my nephew and all that good stuff. But I recently jumped into Sandland, which is Akira Toriyama's last heavily involved game that he was heavily involved in, I should say, based off of the anime of the same name. And it's pretty cool, man. Like, as a video game, it's not perfect. It's not like it does any one thing that you're just like completely blown away by. I think the biggest pull, obviously, is the Akira Toriyama art style. And then, some of the cool things, like there are elements from all kinds of Akira Toriyama tropes where he's, you're in a kind of a place where there's not a lot of people. I've always kind of been of the opinion that Dragon Ball is almost like to me, a post-apocalyptic kind of show, because you have certain city centers, right, where there's all this technology and stuff, but then you have the sticks, and there's not as many people as there should be probably, and you see technology mixed with prehistory, which he really liked to do. This has the same kind of thing. Dinosaurs. The main character can throw a tank out of a capsule, a la Bulma. It's really cool. The art style is really cool. The fighting, it's not a difficult game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a pretty loving ode to what Akira Toriyama was all about. So pretty cool overall. That's been kind of my intro to that. So kind of what I've been playing. Just wanted a break. Obviously, we've all gone through the ringer with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I am still playing that. I am doing a platinum grind, and anybody who's crying about it is baby. It's not.
That's me.
Especially,
I'm crying about it.
Fantasy VII platinum grind is that if you try to do it very quickly, then it's going to grate on you. It's going to wear on you. If you take it bits and pieces, and like I kind of just do it when I feel like it, because I love that world, and I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I want to go and play a little Final Fantasy VII today. And I'll do a few missions or whatever, and then I clean my hands of it for a little while, and then go and do something else, and it's always there to come back to. And I think pacing myself is kind of the key to this, where I don't feel overwhelmed and I don't feel super frustrated. It's kind of how I approach From Software games. If I can't figure something out, I'll put it down, I'll take a little break from it, and usually when I come back, I actually overcome the thing that I was stuck on for whatever reason. So that's kind of what I'm up to. Frenchie, I have a feeling that you've been playing a lot of games lately. What do you got going on, man?
Well, currently I'm about 15 hours in on Stellar Blade, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's checking every single box, like as far as what I like to play. The combat is just so tight, and it has a lot of different ways you can go about it. There's like a really cool parry mechanic. There's dodge mechanics and counters, and you have these things called beta attacks, which are tied to like L1. So you can push L1 square, L1 triangle, and does different things. And I just unlocked something called a burst attack, which is very similar, but except it's R1. So you have like all these different inputs you can do, and some of them are AoE attacks, some of them are just more damage dealing. Some can put you in overdrive, but primarily like the parry mechanic is just so satisfying, because every time you do it, you're gaining energy to use your special attacks. And I think the thing I like about it the most, it's very chill game. It's challenging, but it's not like a full-on Sekiro Dark Souls type game. Like the enemies don't hit very hard. You have plenty of health and different options to kind of sustain yourself in battle. There's plenty of checkpoints, and it's just a very fun game. Like it just reminds me of like those old PS2 games where it's kind of like a corridor and you're going through it. There are open areas like that kind of break the pacing a little bit in a good way. So it's not all corridors. There is some open area exploration. But yeah, it's I can't recommend it enough. Like if you like these type of games, action oriented, deep combat systems, like it's awesome. I'm having a ball.
Compare it to like Nier Automata or Bayonetta or like Ninja Gaiden, or is it more like
Ninja Gaiden? I was gonna say it compares to Ninja Gaiden.
Really? I freaking love Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, even the difficulty's kind of right there. It's not like over the top hard, but it's challenging. Like you're gonna die a couple times, but it's not ever frustrating. And to kind of go back to like Cuphead, where you play and you get so far in a boss and it tells you how far you made it. You kind of have that. You don't get upset about it. Like you got pretty far. Let's try it again. Like, and there's no frustration about it. So
shit, you're selling me on Stellar Blade.
No, honestly, like if you like Nier Automata and like the combat like that, you're gonna like this.
Okay, how's the story though? What's the story of? Is that grabbing you at all?
It's pretty simple. There's like these things called Natiba, which overtook the planet, and they kind of pushed human civilization out. So now they're kind of trying to go back to the planet and fight them off and kill all the elder Natibas and whatnot. It's a pretty simple story. Okay. I'm more there for the combat. Like it's just really engaging. I'm just loving it. And I don't think I'm not gonna go for the platinum because there's like 1,000 collectibles. So, but yeah, it's a great game.
Cool, do you feel like when I played the demo, the dialogue was pretty cheesy? Do you feel like that would be remedied if I put it in like Japanese and just read subtitles?
Maybe, yeah. I think it would. I didn't find the dialogue too cheesy. It's not like super tropey,
maybe let
but-
me amend. Like the delivery, like the English voice acting, I found to be like a little bit dramatic.
Yeah, so Eve's voice acting is pretty solid. It's the other character, the Adam. He's the main guy that saves you at a certain point in the game. His voice delivery is just kind of stale and dull and stoic. I don't know. Just his voice acting is like the only one that kind of bothers me. It's just very monotone, but I wouldn't say it's like cringy.
By the way, any commenters out there that would be like, "You're spoiling the game," man. Adam was in the demo.
Yeah, he was early on. Like you meet him probably within like the
Super
first 3
early
minutes.
on.
Yeah.
What was the chick's name that got smoked that you were with? Not Eve, the other
Tacky.
one. Tacky.
Yeah.
Tacky.
Bro, smoke show.
Oh, they're all smoke shows, bro.
Even more than Eve, Tacky was a smoke show.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I finished a VR game called Star Wars Edge of Galaxies, Tale of something. I don't know what it's called, but here I wrote it down. I'm one of those nerds that like writes a list of every single game I beat. Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. So it was like a quest game that got ported to PSVR 2. It's like a native 90 FPS, so it's super smooth and the graphical fidelity is all there, and it's like a bunch of little short stories. Probably took about 8 to 10 hours to beat. Super awesome game. I did the FF16 Rising Tide DLC. I finished all that, 100% that.
How was that? Was it good?
It was pretty good. Yeah, so it was a lot better than the first DLC. It's more like
Okay.
fully featured. And so there's, I think 11 side quests. The main campaign's maybe like 5 hours. And then you have the awesome Leviathan fight at the end, which is, kind of feeds on the strength of the main game, where you have these really awesome spectacle fights with these icons.
This particular DLC is about finding Leviathan, who in the main game is like, he's the lost icon.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a lost icon.
Wasn't that Sid, though? Isn't that Sid? Wait, spoilers.
Sid was Rama.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, remember my bad. Rama. Yeah.
Dude,
Spoilers.
Sid's voice. Yeah. Sid's voice.
Sid's the best voice actor.
Like the best.
So good.
Dude. I mean, Final Fantasy 16 as a whole had amazing voice acting.
I need to get back into 16. I will eventually.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
I will. I want to be able to. I want to beat every Final Fantasy game before I die.
Yeah. I will get back into Final Fantasy 16 once the PS5 Pro comes out and they do a PS5 Pro patch so that I can play it in 4K at 60 frames. So that game is too good looking to put at the lower resolution, even though the frame rate is horrendous.
Cool.
The funny thing about it is like when it's like when there's a lot of things going on screen, like during battle, the frame rate is steady. It's more like when you're in the towns and just doing general exploration, which is so awesome.
Actually, Digital Foundry did a cool video on that. The frame rate, if you're on performance mode in Final Fantasy 16, the frame rate in battle will be a locked 60 frames a second because they drop the resolution to like 1080. So in cities and towns and stuff, they're relying on the fact that you're moving so fast and there's so many particle effects on screen that you won't notice the lower resolution. And for the most part, they're right. In the towns and stuff, they try to run a 1440p. And that's what kind of drops the frame rate to the, to the 40s, I guess. I actually am one of the few that has a VRR enabled television. So I'm able to take advantage of that. So I would get like performance mode with VRR and then it would, be a little bit higher, but a lot of people were, stuck and oscillating and it just wasn't well optimized. Kind of saw the same thing in Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth at the beginning, but yeah, man, I'll jump into it when the PS5 Pro comes out, which will be a day one purchase for me for sure.
Oh, hell yeah. Me too.
One quick thing, because like I think they're thinking of remastering Horizon Zero Dawn. Did you guys hear about this?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I freaking love that game, but I don't know if it's necessary.
This is why I never play like games that just come straight out. Like you're talking about Final Fantasy 16. Like, why don't you just wait like freaking 5 years until they have a remastered version or 10 years, and then it's like better.
Well, no, they're not. That's different though. That's different. So what they'll do with Final Fantasy 16 is it'll be like, you can play a game on your PC, right? And you get a certain amount of frames. Essentially what this is upgrading your PC. So the patch is just going to be to allow you to it's not going to remaster anything. It's just going to allow you to run at a resolution and a frame rate that the new hardware will support. It's not they're doing with Horizon Zero Dawn is preposterous. I mean, because it's a good looking.
I know it's already a good looking game.
Before I played Forbidden West, and it still looked really good. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I do know what they're doing. This is one of those situations where the economy and the tightening of the games industry has led to, and really a couple of games that have been really big, has led these people to be less adventurous with what they invest their money in. And they're kind of looking for like these sure things. They're going to squeeze Horizon for all it's worth. There's going to be games. That's why The Last of Us has been remastered like 17 times already.
And it's selling too.
And it's selling. And that, so
Partially
somebody
remastered.
looks at that and it's like, well, if that sells, then Horizon will sell, right? Like you want the definitive edition of these games. And it's like,
they might also trying to be lining it up with the TV show. There's supposed to be like a live action show that like on Netflix or something that they're in the midst
they're
of
going to bury that IP. That's for sure.
Yeah. And there's like an MMO I heard about too.
Yeah. What's that? Yeah.
There's going to be a Horizon MMO as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
I never really beat Shadow Colossus until they remastered it because the graphics were so much better on that remaster.
But to me, that's a different thing though. That's 2 generations worth of that's a PS2 game that you remastered for PS4 Pro or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That to me is different than a PS4 game that you're remastering for a PS5. I'm just like, bro, the difference is not that much that you need to do that.
Right.
Yeah, it also had a performance mode too on PS4. For Shadow of the Colossus, it had like one of the first games I can remember where you could choose between resolution and performance.
Yeah,
which was cool.
Oh yeah.
At the time, I didn't. At the time, I wasn't a frame rate snob, but ever since like PS5 came out, that's all I pay attention to now.
Would you guys play Bloodborne again if it came out with 60 FPS?
Hell yeah! Yes. That was the game that started it all for me.
That was me too. That was the first FromSoft game I beat.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And that's the one where I'm like, that makes sense. The Horizon one, I'm like, what are you guys doing? You have Bloodborne sitting right there. And as we saw with Demon Souls, I think that you can get it remastered really well. That team is doing good things. So I don't know why. Maybe it's a problem with From that they don't want to let another team do it, but I don't know. To me, I've seen Blue Point do enough that like I would trust them with it. And it's PlayStation's IP. It's not like From can do anything with the Bloodborne IP outside of Sony. So it's a really weird one that they haven't done it, but that would be the obvious one to me. And then along with like something like Resistance or some of these games that are stranded on the PS3 generation, which is really hard to emulate apparently, and they still haven't really got a handle on it to try to bring those games forward into the generation. But
I gotta say though, like I tried playing God of War 2 on the PS Plus streaming, and it actually works pretty good. I was very pleasantly surprised. Like I played the entire game without a single hitch. It had a solid frame rate, solid connection. I didn't have any issues with it.
Did you play it on your PlayStation Portable or whatever?
No, well, you can't do that because then it's like double streaming. But
that's double streaming, dude.
I played it natively on my PS5.
That would hit it like 2 FPS.
No, it doesn't even let you. It doesn't even give you the option.
It doesn't let you?
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, if you could, it would be like 2 FPS.
Oh, for sure.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
Double streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've also played some other games too. I played a
What else are you playing, man?
Tales of Kenzera Zao.
Oh yeah,
like one of those PS Plus games.
What is it?
So it's kind of like
it's like a platformer.
Yeah, it's like a Prince of Persia Metroidvania style. I had a really good time with it. It was a nice size too. It took about like 10-12 hours to beat it, which is perfect, because I've been trying to play a lot of smaller games after FF7. And then Immortals of Avium, I finished that. That's all done.
Oh, you finished it?
Yeah, that was pretty short too. Like about 12-15 hours. Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
It's pretty average. It's definitely passable.
Not worth my time.
It does some things. I don't know. It just didn't really hit me like a game like Stellar Blade does, where it just feels so damn good to play. It just felt very average, and I can see why it was overlooked in 2023, where there was like tons of games out. So unfortunately, I heard there was layoffs at that studio, but hey, can't win them all.
Yeah. Absolutely. So man, looks like we're all playing some good stuff. But before we let this Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth thing kind of go into the wayside, we want to kind of dive in. Let's just start real quick with like the game systems, battles, graphics, like what we thought of all that total package. Torrey Pines, why don't you start us off, man? What'd you think graphically, battle wise? Do you think this was a cool representation of like what Final Fantasy 7 could have been and always should have been, maybe?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, nothing really compares to the original of playing. Your first RPG, first time you're like, whoa, this is like another level of gaming I've never experienced as a kid. Back in 1997, when I was like, how old were we in 97? We're young. But no, like the graphics are amazing. The gameplay was amazing. Well, like all the like the ATB system, the way they made it way more smooth, and it almost felt like an action game in a way, um, was just great. I loved it. Like again, the first like 10, 20 hours of this game, I fell in love with Final Fantasy 7 again. I was like, this is amazing. This is like a flower blooming into like this another mentality of I haven't experienced since I played like Final Fantasy 10 in school, when like you bought a game at its launch and you're just like, holy shit, this is like next level, the best of the best that's out there right now. So I definitely had that experience, the first 20 hours. And then I realized how big this game was. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is going to take over my life. And that's when it slowly started to dwindle to exhaustion and then confusion at the end. And I hope we can get into that soon, because I really want to talk about the ending. So, but overall, I mean, it's a great game. It's like, yeah, top tier.
Yeah. Frenchie, how about you, man?
Yeah, so going into this game, it was, kind of pinned as my game of the generation. Like this was the one that I don't think will be surpassed for the entire generation. I could be wrong, but I'm a big FF7 guy. That was my number one. That's my number one game of all time. So like going into this, I was extremely hyped, and I usually don't get this hype for games. And yeah, so going into it, I had very, very high expectations, and usually that goes, the wrong way. But I was just enamored by everything about this game. Just the realization of the cities, like seeing Junon up at there with the cannon and the Highwind chilling up there. Uh, the reimagining of Calm, and how well they did Cosmo Canyon and all these different places. It just looks so amazing. And growing up, you didn't even think about it. Like you didn't think about I wonder how this would look in 20 years if they remade it, or 30 years, or whatever it is. And I just think they did an absolutely amazing job. This was like a very impossible project, like they're taking this beloved game that so many people hold near and dear to their heart, and they just nailed it. From the combat perspective, I'm going to say it again. I think the materia system is the best that Final Fantasy has ever been, and that's just my personal opinion. I know everybody has their flavor, but just the variety and diversity of things you can do with it. Like when you just take a simple magic spell and hook up elemental to it, or magnify, or what's the other one? Synergy. Like there's just so many different combinations you can do. You can make yourself overpowered. There's a lot of cool end game material that you can unlock. Yeah, just the characters. Gosh, the music was just absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to say it's objectively great, because there was just so much depth to the songs, and a lot of them they even combined two different songs and they put them together, and you would kind of like, oh yeah, that's from that song, and then you would hear this part where it was like Sephiroth's theme, and then like it would just go back and forth between the two. And gosh, yeah, I'll leave some for you, Matt, because there's definitely a lot to love about this game.
Yeah, man, I absolutely love this game. We'll talk about where you guys ended up with it. I loved it and enjoyed it through and through. I'm still enjoying it as I work my way towards the platinum. Everything in there was just lovingly crafted, and it's amazing from top to bottom. It's a little bit of performance issues, a little bit of technical issues. I'm really excited about the aforementioned PS5 Pro that I was talking about. I think that'll help Final Fantasy 16 and this game. For a long time, when it first came out, they just had a regular performance mode and they had graphics mode, and the performance mode was so soft. Mm-hmm. It looked like it kind of looked like if you were wearing glasses and somebody just like smudged your glasses. Everything was just a little soft and out of focus. Mm-hmm. So I played on graphics mode at 30 FPS. It was a begrudging thing that I kind of, did, but the game was too pretty at 4K to not. When they released, I think it was like patch 2, they released a sharp performance mode, at that point, I switched over, and the combat became that much more enjoyable. My parrying got better, obviously, because higher frame rates and stuff like that. But this was very lovingly crafted, and you could tell that they wanted to expand on a lot of what Final Fantasy VII brought to the table. You saw locations that got a little bit more time to shine. You saw new characters, characters from other series and things like that. From the graphics of the combat, like we already said, I think this version of kind of the mix between live action and active time battle and menu-based, almost turn-based combat, to me is probably the best that Final Fantasy has ever offered. Better than 15. I liked it better than 16. This is like from top to bottom. If the next 5 Final Fantasy games were like this, I would be happy with it. It's
absolutely.
That good. Frenchie, like you said, the materia system, one of the best. I really do like it. Not as big a fan of some of the leveling stuff. But you take your trade-offs. I think mainly it's the transmutation stuff. I'm just like, all right, I get it for a little bit, but there's an extensive list to do. And I was just like, all right, I don't want to transmute stuff anymore. The overall weapon leveling and things like that, I thought was fine. I think it actually kind of, what it reminded me of with the different skills and the abilities you unlock was the sphere grid from Final Fantasy X.
The folios. Yeah.
The folios reminded me of the sphere grid a little bit with how you can, choose your path and your branch. Not as in depth as that, but materia system is kind of like an all-encompassing thing, including leveling and all that stuff. And then lastly, music. Like you touched on, Frenchie, the music is amazing. The voice acting, once again, really good. Yeah, you see the changes in Cloud. You can see when he's being hey, I'm tough guy. And then you can see when he's awkward and uncomfortable. And then you can tell when he's actually let his guard down. Aerith, of course, always that whimsical, happy-go-lucky type thing, which makes, which we'll talk about her speech in chapter 13. Very
love that
kind of different, different because she goes from that really breathy, lighter than air type of tone to a much more serious tone, and that was cool too. Tifa, obviously sensitive but strong with her voice acting. I thought that was very well done. Barrett is Barrett,
Mr. T.
Barrett is Barrett. I think I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look at the credits, but I think it's the same person that does the English voice acting, at least in the Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5 for Balrog. I think it's the same guy.
Oh, cool.
It sounds almost exactly like it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And just everybody, I think, did a great job. Red 13's character goes through a transformation. Obviously, I thought that was well done. I didn't like it at first, but then it kind of fits afterwards. Everybody did a great job. I think my most favorite voice that surprised me the most was Kate Sith. I didn't know what to expect with that character, right?
Yeah.
And then they make it this little Scottish guy, and I'm like, all right, this is cool. All right, I'm good with that. So, yeah, overall, a fantastic game. A game that just on its own merits from gameplay, from all that stuff, would be great if it didn't also encompass a world that we love. And I think that pumps it up even further. That being said, man, Final Fantasy Remake set us up with don't expect what your mom's old Final Fantasy. This is the brand new freshly baked version, and so we got to jump into it.
Yeah, my mom totally played Final Fantasy 7 back in the day.
Oh, she did.
It was a pie analogy, you dork.
Just play it.
Hey, so there's one more thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing that they turned around and made this game in 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
That is crazy.
It's packed to the brim with content, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I know the game length is kind of controversial, but the fact that they did so much to this game, there's so much to do. Like I said before, I don't think I've ever played a game this long in my life. I got the platinum at 150 hours, and gosh, that was just, I don't know how they did that. Actually, I heard that a lot of the development team is the same team that was on Remake, so there wasn't much turnaround in staff. So they were very comfortable with Unreal Engine 4, and they just kind of seamlessly they had assets already. And I think that's going to be the case with Part 3. Most of the team is going to stick around and continue for the next iteration of this trilogy. But yeah, good stuff, man. I
we
think
talk about the
so.
ending now.
Yeah, so I think the way we're going to do this podcast is we're going to just kind of jump through some major plot points throughout the game, but the bulk of this is going to be, I think, the last 2 chapters. I'm assuming that anybody that's listening to this has played the game all the way to the end, so I don't think there's any real need to go chapter by chapter.
We called it a spoiler cast. If they clicked on it, they got to know what they're in for.
Yeah.
Spoilers at 30 minutes in.
I mean, yeah. I think let's the opening with Zach, really cool. A little disappointing that he didn't play more of it. Beyond that, though, I think for the most part, for the first, half of the game, a lot of bulk. Besides padding out some stuff, it's almost like it's very close to what the original Final Fantasy VII was. What do you guys think?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
You mean just the game in general?
I mean, like
the
from
in general?
Okay, after we get back from the nibble, after we get back opening the game with Zach, right? Like when we go through that cool sequence, Zach has a full set of moves and everything like that. Starting from the Nibelheim flashback with Cloud, up until I would say probably chapter 9.
Yeah,
is pretty much Final Fantasy VII with some expansion on certain things, maybe some like padding out or fleshing out of characters here and there. Obviously Queen's Blood is different. But like, there was the scene, like you go through the Mithril Mines in the original game. And besides Barrett and Red 13 kind of taking off and going down to shoot some crystals and save some dudes in black robes, like not a ton of difference there. At least from a story perspective. I think we're all waiting for the other shoe to drop after, remake ended. And we were like, oh shit, like Zach. And then the game opens up with Zach and we don't get a lot of him. And it's almost like a troll from Square Enix, I think. And so, once we get to chapter 9, I think that's one of the bigger, the bigger things that we see with the change. I mean, dude, Hojo still shows up at Costa del Sol. He does in the original game too. So it's, it's very, very, close to what Final Fantasy VII would be otherwise.
Yeah, it seems like for the most part, they went to the same locations. You start in Calm and go to the Chocobo Farm, Mithril Mines, Junon, and so on. But yeah, like you said, chapter 9, I think that's when things started getting a little bit different. If I'm remembering correctly, that's when I guess we can. This is a spoiler cast, right? We can just talk about it. This is when
talk about it.
Cloud. When Cloud attacks Tifa. How did you guys feel about that?
Yeah, that was weird,
I didn't like it.
I know. I was like, what are they what are they doing? I mean, it kind of reminded me of because there's a spot, when Barrett almost dies as well. They, like,
in the first one.
Guys, in the original, Sephiroth kills him and the Whispers bring him back.
Yeah.
Anything is possible.
That's when I think that's just, Square's just trickling all that, like, anything's gonna happen, but we got to get into the fucking multiverse stuff. Like, I'm like, come on, let's just talk about it.
Well, no, this is important. This is important, though, Tori. You fucking petulant child. Hold on.
I don't know what's important about this. Okay, let's go over the differences in Final Fantasy VII.
No, it's definitely important because
Red 13
without this
voice change.
Well, no, hold on. But we're gonna go back to the Tifa attack because I think that this fleshes out how far gone that Cloud is at this point. And we flesh out because in the original game, he goes through a lot of this stuff too. And in this game, the original and whatever, a lot of the stuff that Cloud's doing, the party's like, all right, cool, like get it together, let's keep going. But they keep following Cloud, which is just like, God, these people are kind of fucking stupid. Like, what are they doing? Why do they keep, And I think that Tifa falling into the live stream, which is the first time that we see the live stream really,
that was cool,
and get swallowed up really by. What I would say is, it's the weapon or whatever, but I think it's like actually the infant version of the weapons that we will see in the third game. I think these are like the kind of tadpole versions of these before they blossom. She gets swallowed or whatever, and she goes through the live stream and the memories and all this stuff from Cloud as a kid. And there's a line in there that I think changes my perspective on her being okay with Cloud or whatever. It's just that, like, no, he came back to save me in Nibelheim. Now I'm going to be the one that saves him. And so I think that's a very important plot point because then you're just like, okay, no, she's doing this consciously. She knows he's fucked up, but she wants to save him. She loves him enough to try to save him. And I think that that's an important beat and will play into and kind of puts the ending in perspective because as we'll get to in chapter 13, you know, like I said, with Aerith's speech, Cloud is completely like, all right, are you done? Like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, that was a really big
So I think that
right
chapter
there.
9 was really important. And it's important from the perspective of, I think it, you know, we were getting a little comfortable. As I said, the first 8 chapters or whatever were essentially just Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah.
This, I think, was the first time where we're like, oh shit, are they going to fucking kill Tifa? Like, is Tifa going to die?
First time they deviated from like the main story path.
Right. And I think that was good to shake us out of our complacency and be like, you know, because by 8 chapters, you're just like, are they going to change anything in this game? Or are they going to save it all for the end? And this was the shakeup a little more than halfway through that you're just like, oh shit. Okay. And it's kind of puts you on alert again. That's why it's important, I think, overall.
Well, do you think like in the next one, just because that's a good theory with like the tadpole reference you made, that the weapons are going to be these massive like Final Fantasy 16 kind of battles.
I think they're going to be the same weapons that like Ruby weapon and Emerald weapon and shit in Final Fantasy 7.
Yes.
Diamond and Sapphire.
So I think that those are going to be
yes.
And the way that we'll be able to tell is in chapter 9 when Tifa was inside one of them. Sephiroth tried to kill her, and one of the weapons, and you see it at the end of the game too, has a slash from Masamune on its like right fin.
Yeah.
So I think that if we see one of the weapons with like a scar on that, we'll know for sure that like they were the original in the Gungaga reactor.
So sick.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good theory. I like where you're going.
Yeah. That's a really good theory, dude. I haven't heard that one. That's dope. I like that, Matt.
Yeah, it'd be cool because they say, oh, the planet gives birth to these weapons in a time of great peril. Well, if it's birthing the weapons, they have to have like a nascent stage where they're like growing or whatever. It's not going to just spit out whole weapons or whatever. I mean, it could, but it's kind of like a cooler little representation of what can happen or whatever.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than the way they did it in the first game. If your theory kind of holds, because in the first game they were kind of there when they go to the northern crater, and so this is Cloud gives Sephiroth the black materia. That's when the planet realized it was in danger, and that's when the mature weapons were released out into the planet. So that'd be kind of cool. If you do see that scar though, and your theory would hold.
And the thing is that, like, we knew that they were weapons in chapter 7 because it was like, oh shit, like that's like a legit weapon. And then, Tifa shows up and Bugenhagen makes fun of her about the whole weapon thing, and they kind of go through that. But that's my theory, and I think it would make sense to do it that way, which we can get into. I have a theory based on the ending as well.
So I personally didn't like that part of the game. That was like the first time that I kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, really? Did they really just do that? So I gotta ask you a question, Tori. This is for you. If I slashed you and you fell into the live stream and we hypothetically rescued you and you woke up at Gungaga and I was looking down on you, what would you think? Wouldn't you be scared of me because I almost killed you? Like,
well, that's the thing.
Wouldn't you want to talk about it?
What I have to agree with Matt what he was saying about how Tifa, like, she knows stuff. Like, she knows that Cloud is not the psychopath, borderline personality disorder character, which all his actions kind of seem that way. But also when she went into when she fell into the live stream, the game made it sound like she was gonna die. Like, you're dead. Like, you're not coming back. And so she had this crazy experience where she was like in this euphoric land and being able to breathe and see these, giant freaking whale looking creatures and all this stuff. And then she comes to, and it's just like, what the hell just happened? But I feel like, we'll get into the multiverse stuff too, but like with Aerith and Sephiroth and Cloud, like, I feel like Tifa knows more than she's putting on. Right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, she was kind of uncomfortable with Cloud. Like, if you remember the conversation they had at Calm, she was kind of remembering that, you weren't there at the Nibelheim incident. So they're kind of like putting the puzzle pieces together and figuring it out. And that's part of the journey, just recalling memories and trying to figure out what happened, like from Nibelheim all the way up until now. Because Cloud is, he's got this memory thing going on. He's glitching out. He's got these.
Yeah, he's way more messed up in this game than the original.
Yeah, and they kind of double down on that. they expand on that, you know, and I think that's kind of why they went ahead and made him attack Tifa, because he's being controlled ultimately by Genova, because he has Genova cells in him,
right?
So he's kind of being controlled from the outside, you know.
And that makes, I mean, like, because Zack has Genova cells in him, Sephiroth does, like, all the originals from Crisis Core and all that. So anyone can really be controlled by that if they're a soldier, right?
Did you play Crisis Core?
I did, yeah. So I
finish Crisis Core.
I watched the video, but yes.
You seem like you'd be a what's his name, Genesis fan because of his hair.
Yeah, I love Genesis with Loveless. Oh my god.
Oh my god, that's all he would do.
Dude,
like,
Loveless?
He would just recite lines from Loveless. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up.
Oh my god, that was like the worst part of the game. Like, oh man.
I love Crisis Core, by the way, but yeah, that was probably the worst part.
Yeah, the Crisis Core is dope. I think they're gonna spin it all around. I think the third game is gonna throw some of those characters back in the mix, which I'm gonna be like, this is sick. Dude, Buster Sword times 3, Cloud
and Jill.
And Jill. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
We'll get there. I will say, watch it, like having watched it in multiple angles and stuff, Cloud does not make contact with Tifa. He doesn't actually slash her. She actually kind of pushes herself back off of and falls into the live stream.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. I didn't see any contact.
No contact. I mean, and this was just after he like murked a bunch of Shinra soldiers and had blood on his face.
Which was
so it's not like they have a problem with blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blood was on his face, but on Tifa, you don't see any blood. There's no blood. There's no like cut to any of her equipment or anything like that. She just falls backwards. So I don't think he actually hit her. That would kind of mitigate maybe some of that, you know.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, hey, what are you doing? Rather than I don't know, maybe just me. But
I would say that was the first major change that we saw in the game. And then in Chapter 10 in Cosmo Canyon, there was another huge change that wasn't in the original game. And that was after you fight Gina Talk, and then you go into that area. I think, Matt, you were probably you like this part the most, so I'll kind of let you expand on it, because I didn't care about this black materia explanation, but I'll let you go into it if you like.
I just thought that it gave some interesting backstory to where the black materia would come from, because we don't get that in the original game. It's just, it's black materia. It's just, this is going to cause all kinds of problems or whatever. And this was like more of a reason for it. And I think it gave more depth to Seto, who is Red 13, Nanaki's father, and kind of expands upon what happened. And, there's no explanation in the original game for why the Cetra disappear. They were stewards of the planet, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And this gives you some important backstory that the Gi are from another planet. They can't return to the live stream because they're not from the live stream, and they were looking for a way to just hopefully, if we can end our existence here, just end everything here, then maybe we can, get out of this purgatory. And then you see that, the Cetra will at all costs try to protect that black materia from being used. And that humanity was really involved in the downfall of the Cetra. It was important backstory, I think, for a couple of characters, for Seto, for Nanaki, for all the people in Cosmo Canyon, for Aerith, who is the last of the Cetra, but you don't really get like the whole importance of it. How does she know how to do these certain things? I thought that Rebirth did a good job of kind of like spoon feeding her like these little step ups in her ability to kind of be in touch with the planet. I thought that was more important than just, oh yeah, no guys, I can talk to the planet. And it's kind of like there were certain aspects to the original Final Fantasy VII that were a little Mary Sue-ish, like a power would show up just when you need it. And that, or a person with little to no training all of a sudden just has these abilities. So I thought that this was important, but it was a cool little thing. And then I just really liked the design of the Gi. I thought that pretty cool. Pretty cool design.
So, Aerith, you can talk to the planet, right? Yeah. How? Trust me, bro.
Yeah, that's
Aerith is like, trust me, bro.
Yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. So that whole section, we find out that the Gi created the black materia, right, to kind of end their purgatory.
They wanted to summon. Yeah, so they're in purgatory. They can't really leave the planet. They exist as spirits when their body dies. They try to make the black materia so they can summon meteor to destroy the planet and the live stream in the hopes that they can finally move on.
And the Cetra managed to get their hands on it before they can cast it.
Yeah.
So and then they
locked
hid it in
away.
the Temple of Ancients.
Yes.
Right. That sounds about right. So I think the next thing we can kind of segue into is chapter 13, where they go all the way through the temple.
Yay.
It's about a nice 3-hour section that Tori really loved. And,
God.
you know, they end up with the black materia in their hand. Aerith said it was a fake. Is it a fake?
Did she? I don't remember.
She did. I think she was just trying to trick Cloud, though. Yeah. So when they go to reach it, when they see it for the first time, Aerith said it was a fake, and they kind of doubt that. They ended up picking it up, and that's when the whole temple started to collapse. So yeah, so once they get outside, Barrett picked it up off the floor, or what happened? He knocked it out of Cloud's hands, and said it's fake anyways.
Right.
But then Cloud goes after it, and that's when Sephiroth shows up.
Yeah, he turned into freaking Frodo from Lord of the Rings and was like, I need that, you know?
A lot happened at that scene, but the fact that Sephiroth picked it up and used it leads me to believe that it wasn't a fake, right? Because he started spawning all this magical stuff out in the air and these little black pillars that he eventually walked on. And so this is where Cloud gets mind controlled into giving it back. So this was kind of confusing to me because Sephiroth picks it up and gives it back to Cloud. And then Cloud starts to become the puppet that he's talking about and gives it back to him. So I don't know if that was like a power move or what's going on, if Jenova was controlling all this.
So, yeah.
How do you interpret that part?
My interpretation is that the materia is fake, but it's the key to getting the real one. And I think Sephiroth at one point, so Cloud gives the black materia to Sephiroth, who gives it back to Cloud, and at that point tells him this is a key to get the black materia that was hidden in between worlds by the Cetra. Mm-hmm. So I think that the temple was, when the temple collapses, that's when you have the ability to get the black materia. But because in the original games, the temple was the black materia.
Yeah. Because the temple disappears.
I think this is a little bit of a play on that. And I don't know, man. I think that it's just Aerith wouldn't necessarily. I don't think she would out and out lie. I think that she knew it was a key. This is not the black materia, but like I don't want you to have it because this is the key to the black materia. You know, I think eventually at the end of the game, what Cloud puts into the Buster Sword, which we'll get to, looks different than what he grabbed in the temple, and I think he does have the black materia. Him and Aerith go to that dreamland or whatever together, kind of in between worlds, and I think at that point that's when Cloud actually has the black materia. I don't think they explicitly showed how he got it, but there was also a period of time where Cloud was unconscious or whatever for the whole thing. So there could be maybe it was him touching the world between worlds that made the fake materia into like the actual black materia or whatever. I'm not sure, but I think when Aerith says it's the fake, I think it was the fake because we know from the original that the temple is actually the black materia.
Yeah. So if we go back to chapter 13, I think this is where things start to get really, really wacky. So Aerith is out there with the black materia. Or no, Aerith was out there and Cloud is basically with her, and Sephiroth slashes a piece of the platform and they fall into the Temple of Ancients. And that's
now, before that, though, Aerith picks up the black materia and tries to run away with it. And we get that really The Shining moment from Cloud where he's like, Aerith. It's like, oh shit, dude, he's losing his shit.
And he's walking all goofy too, right?
Yeah.
Like a puppet on strings.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was like the biggest deviation as far as like what's possible in this game, because up to this point, everything was kind of pretty grounded, but they fall into the Temple of Ancients and they wake up in a whole entirely new world that we hadn't seen before. So this, at first glance, you're thinking, oh wait, this is where this is what we've been seeing with Zack, that he's been taking care of Aerith and Cloud, and they're in this wheelchair and everything. So initially I thought it was that, but if you pay attention, when they're kind of walking along the market, you see different dogs, right? It's kind of like a Chihuahua looking dog. So
the dog thing is different. It's different.
This is a whole new world. We haven't seen this one. So at this point, we're like, hey, this is a third world. And this is, I don't know. playing this for the first time, I didn't grasp it until I
didn't
watched it, several times later. But we also see images of Zack. So this is where Zack had to make a decision. He's kind of like in the underground tunnels of Midgar, and he's like, oh, do I go save Biggs? Biggs is at the reactor. He's going to bomb it. He might die. Or do I go in this path and I see Cloud, and maybe I can go to the Shinra Tower and get a remedy or some kind of cure for Cloud.
Oh, yeah.
So he chooses one path. That's a whole nother world. If he chooses the left path, that's a whole nother world too. So that at this point, we have like 5 different possibilities. There's 5 worlds.
Yeah.
And then later we see him at the church and he's chilling, and we see Johnny walking by and he's holding a dog too. So that's a 6th world. Like there's just so much going on. And did you guys, what scene I'm talking about, right? Where he's sitting on the stairs outside Aerith's church. Sephiroth walks up the stairs. And here's another thing that I haven't seen anybody talk about. Sephiroth slashes up Zack and just takes him to another world. When did he get this power to do this? Because Aerith does the same thing to Cloud.
Yeah.
So you're basically, I don't know, you're basically telling me anything can happen. This is like some full-on Kingdom Hearts nonsense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Have you guys played any of the Kingdom Hearts games? And
I couldn't tell you a single thing about the stories. They're so out there, and not to mention it's on PS1, it's on PSP, it's on DS. Like you couldn't experience it unless you had it all. But so I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot going on. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's I think Aerith and Sephiroth are the Omni Aerith and Sephiroth, right? Like they're going in between worlds. I think Sephiroth is okay. So did you guys play Xenoblade? You guys beat that at all?
I did not.
The first one.
That was the one I missed.
Well, I'm not gonna, or Xenogears, any of those games. I mean, not to spoil it, but a lot of these, JRPGs, who do you fight at the end is God, right? And I think Sephiroth his goal is to just destroy all these different universes and make one. So he's like the king of all of them or something like that. Because he knows that Aerith might have this ability as well. And if Aerith has this ability to jump between universes, there's probably others that can do the same. And he just wants to be God, right? He wants to be the one and all to control all of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's what I think's going on, but I'm happy I know this. Yeah, go ahead.
If you look at the original game, like he's trying to summon this meteor to cause this scar in the planet, and Lifestream comes out and he's going to absorb that power and become God, like you're saying. So in this game, Rebirth, he's trying to get every single possibility, all these universes, the reunion, right? He's going to get all these planets together and have one timeline, and then absorb all the power from all of them at the same time. It's kind of the same thing, but it's more like a meta thing going on.
It's like the Matrix, right? With the what do you call it? The architect, right? How he's seen it all played out hundreds and hundreds of times, and he's trying to, and with Neo and all that stuff, they're trying to change it. Like, we got to change this little part to make a new world.
Yeah. Another thing to consider is that when Cloud fell down into the Temple of Ancients and he's waking up in this whole new world, he can recall everything that's happened before him. So in a sense, like the Cloud that's in Rebirth is experiencing memories as the Cloud in a different world is. Because he didn't start from scratch. He remembered everything that happened up to that point. And then when Aerith pushed him into the flowers and he goes back to the Rebirth timeline, he remembered everything that happened. So it's not like we're dealing with different Clouds and different memories. Like they're somehow all connected. And it's the same thing with Aerith. Aerith had an idea or like this knowledge that another version of herself needed the white materia that was in her hair, which is why she gave it to Cloud, pushed him back, so that the original, or I don't know how to. We should kind of have like some guidelines here, right? We have the Rebirth timeline, we have the Zack timeline, and so on. But yeah, so she found a way to send that materia back into another world so that herself can use it.
Right.
Like even like Zack and Biggs. If you look at those scenes where they're talking to each other, like they can recall everything that happened in Remake. Like Biggs remembers everything that happened in Remake up until the Sector 7 plate falling, and he wakes up in another place and he just has no idea what's going on. And Zach and him are just trying to figure it out. Like they're talking to each other. They don't know how any of this happened. They don't know why they're alive. They don't know their purpose, but they have the memories from other existences. You know, it's kind of fascinating. And then it's a great way to deviate from the original.
Why did Aerith at the end say, Cloud, like, don't look up when there was the tear in the sky? You remember that?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure.
And he tells everyone else like not to look up too, but he's the only one that can see it.
Yeah, Cloud can see it, I believe, from his eyes.
Yeah.
So he sees that scar, and I think that's part of the planets merging, possibly, right? Like we don't have a definitive answer. Everything's kind of a theory at this point because this is the middle part of the game. But
can we do theory?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, what do you think? I want to hear your theories.
I think everything is a theory because we don't really know. There's so much that was thrown at us.
Can we do predictions for the third one, or should we keep?
We'll keep that for the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, Matt, what do you think about like the way they handled Aerith's death? Because I'm of two minds, but I'll let you go
fundamentally disagree with the multiverse theory. I don't think it's a multiverse at all. But that's
really, ooh, I love it.
Yeah, it's not a multiverse.
What do you think it is then?
They know everything. Listen, everything begins and ends with the live stream. It always has, and the live stream has these properties from the planet where time and space and everything are separated from that. We know that Sephiroth has directly touched the live stream. We know that Aerith is connected to the live stream through the Cetra. And there are moments in this game, Zach in certain sequences, Cloud in certain sequences, where you see like this rainbow shimmering thing around them, which was in Advent Children, which was representative of the live stream. So everything for me is the live stream. And then there was an NPC in Cosmo Canyon that kind of talks about it too. And I wanted to find the quote because I've seen this theory going around, but it says, so it's right before Tifa's about to like discuss her theory. And it says, I'm convinced that there's another world where my parents are still alive. I pour myself into my studies with the hope of reaching that other world. And I must say it is here where I have received the most valuable teachings. Now I know that the live stream and its spiritual energy are composed of knowledge and memories, although it is not easy to distinguish between the two. Perhaps it is also formed by hopes and dreams. It is possible that spirit energy does not differentiate between real memories, hopes, and shattered dreams. I think that another world can be revealed to us when, by chance, we come into contact with this energy. This is the interpretation I've arrived at with what I have learned here. And I think that's important because when Aerith and Cloud are on the run from Sephiroth, she takes him to a spot where her and Cloud are going on this date, right? She takes him to a spot where, you know, she's happy and is trying to hide him from everything else. And she has direct control of it. It would be a leap too far, I think, to all of a sudden have Aerith just be this like master of a multiverse type of deal. You know what I mean? Like with what, like Sephiroth, I get like he's part of Genova who comes from a different planet or whatever, but Aerith is of the world. And so I think everything that's happening is from the live stream because that's what she has contact with. Sephiroth, to me, in this whole remake kind of thing, is trying to undo what happened in the original game. And I think that is where the Whisperers of Fate come in with the planet trying to fight back. And we see in the original game too that Sephiroth kind of mentions it. He knows that Cloud has already defeated him when they're in that like Cosmos area or whatever, when he's like kind of doing the exposition. This is him working when he's working against it. So for me, I think that, you know, multiverse, and it's maybe a little wishful thinking on my part because I think multiverses are like super passe and played out and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think this is more just the live stream kind of like being a part of, you know, everything. It's kind of like Star Wars, right? Like the force is in everything. It binds us, it ties us together. It's all this stuff, right? And there's the living force and, you know, everything else. And I think that that's kind of from this. So I think it's more that that Aerith is in contact with the live stream, can talk to the planet as we saw, and with the rainbow shimmering and the things we saw with Zack, the whispers of fate kind of leading him towards being able to be with Cloud. And the scene that you talked about, right? Does Zack go and help Cloud, or does he go and help Biggs? And at one point, the tunnel which Biggs was going down had that shimmering rainbow light come out of it as if it was the live stream. That's kind of like a lot of this stuff is kind of pinning it together. That makes me think that, you know, a lot of these characters, the worlds that come into play and fade away and everything else is just like ebbs and flows of the live stream, and just like people's memories and maybe the whole shattered dreams type of thing, you know?
Yeah. If you remember when Aerith pushed Cloud into the flowers and he gets teleported back to the Rebirth timeline. I think at that point, that's where we have the exposition where Cloud is, or Sephiroth kind of explains the reality of the world to him. They're kind of floating in that area, and he tells him that every time fate is defied, new worlds are born. And I think that's what that rainbow symbolizes. And anytime we see that, you know, things branch off and there's different worlds kind of spawning off. Even when Cloud deflects the sword, when Sephiroth comes down to kill her, you see that rainbow in the background, you know, and at that whole scene, there's like, I feel like at that scene, there was multiple things going on. We have one instance where Cloud saves Aerith, and we have one instance where she dies, and then there's possibly another reality where Cloud is controlled and attacks her and kills her. Like we don't know. Like it just, there were so many things going on at that particular scene that it's kind of unclear.
It's more clear in my theory, I think, just because Sephiroth is operating from knowledge that he doesn't possess. At this point in the game, I'm not sure. In the original version of the game, at this point in the game, Sephiroth still thinks that he is like a Cetra, like in the past or whatever. Like he still thinks he's born of the Cetra and from the planet. We know that he's outside of the planet. So there are things that, you know, that we know about the Gi with their expansion, that they're not a part of the live stream. Sephiroth is not part of the live stream.
But Aerith is, because she's the last Cetra, right?
Aerith is. But here's the thing. Everything that you're saying about these different worlds, the different worlds don't really last. Every time we've seen Zack in a timeline, that world, like he's had to hop between multiple worlds. And to me, it's like throwing, Sephiroth is throwing stones into a lake. He's creating wakes, but eventually the surface of the lake settles down. And I think everything in the live stream is trying to pull itself back to that initial timeline, which is why even though in the first game they fought the Whispers of Fate and broke free, there's still Whispers in this game. So they didn't actually break free as much as they thought they did. And everything is trying to pull. So I think that Aerith is aware of this finally and is trying to guide Cloud back to the original. That's just my theory, because I think that the multiple worlds thing is like I would be very disappointed. Also, there's interviews with devs and stuff like that are like they're not changing the lore, they're just kind of expanding it, and so everything was the live stream in Final Fantasy VII. So I kind of just feel like that's where it's going to eventually end up. About her death, though, I think that she's dead. I think that Sephiroth fucking killed her right there, or skewered her like a kebab. The one thing that we have to remember is that our perspective by default is Cloud's perspective in a lot of these situations. Unless it's explicitly stated that, you know, with the other characters, when we branch off and do like Red 13 or whatever, if Cloud is in the party, the game is told from Cloud's perspective. And Cloud is in a lot of storytelling, he's what we call an unreliable narrator. So you have to take a grain of salt everything that Cloud sees. And so Cloud really wants to save Aerith. You know, it could be a part of Cloud that's inside, but Cloud's broken. Like, we all know that he has no control over his actions and everything like that. So I think that she's really dead. And I think that they're, you know, a lot of people are complaining, right? They didn't show her death sequence. They didn't show like it, not how we remembered it. They didn't show Cloud like putting her in the water and stuff like that. I think they're saving that for when the inevitable point comes in the third game. Once Cloud gets his memory, I think that will be the point where Cloud is finally accepting of Aerith's death, and that they'll show what actually happened. That's my theory on it.
Yeah.
So
if you go ahead, Tori.
well, I'll just no. I like your theory a lot, Matt, because I think there was a part, you guys can correct me on this if I'm wrong, because I was watching a video about it, but the idea that Aerith can bring, didn't she like bring materia from one, whatever, if we're not gonna, one scenario to the next, like the white materia that she had, and then it all of a sudden became clear. So is Aerith,
those are two different materias, though.
They're two different materias.
Well, they're the same materia from two different worlds.
That's what I was. Yeah, that's why I'm.
I see. You say from two different worlds. I think that
it's the same world.
When she gives Cloud, it's the same world. It's just closer to the live stream. As you push events further and further away from the original events of the game, it fades, right?
But they're both there at the same moment. When they're at the Forgotten Capital, you can see the clear one and the white one at the same time.
Right, but that's a narration trick. That's called a MacGuffin.
Red herring.
I'm willing to bet that they're the same thing. A MacGuffin.
So do you think Aerith? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
Well, no, I was just saying, do you think Aerith, essentially, like you said, she's been dead this whole time, that she's kind of, well, I guess that's the whole point. I mean, that's the third one. She's kind of guiding Cloud to the actual what's happening, right? Is that what we're kind of establishing?
Yeah, I mean, Aerith and Sephiroth both seem to know the ending of everything. Like they're more like all-knowing. Yeah. They're shrewd with knowledge, So
Cloud essentially
they're playing the game.
A dementia patient at a psych ward.
Cloud is a vessel.
Yeah, Cloud is a vessel.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot to digest there. So remember when I sent you guys that text? I fucking loathe this game.
Yes, please explain that. Please.
So I have grown. So I'm gonna let everybody know I love this game. This game's amazing. Now that some time has passed, I've been able to kind of analyze things, and I've kind of accepted it. But at the original time when I played this game, so it's around like, I don't know, 1 o'clock. I'm at the last chapter and I see Aerith get saved. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, where are they going to go with this? And then 10 minutes later, you see her getting killed. And then, or not 10 minutes, I should say like a minute later, we see her getting killed. And then she wakes up and says, don't worry, Cloud, it's going to be okay. And then they force you into this like 10 phase boss rush fight. And like this whole time, I'm more thinking about what happened. Like, what the hell just happened? Like, I saw two different realities. So like the whole time, I swear to God, like the whole time I was playing the boss fight, I was just frowning, like, I don't want to fucking do this, I just didn't enjoy it. And then like we go back to the scene where, I don't know, Aerith is awake again, and then they keep going back and forth, and I just didn't like the way they handled it. I don't know if they could have handled it any other way, but just the constant back and forth. Like there was even a scene where we see Cloud holding Aerith, and it flashes between two different realities where her hand is bloodied, and then it kind of goes back and forth where it's not bloodied. And Cloud is seeing one thing. He's experiencing both realities at the same time. The party's seeing another thing. So I don't know. It was for the first playthrough, trying to like understand what's going on, and them throwing a big old boss fight at you, and then all of a sudden Zack shows up and Aerith comes out and helps you at the end. It was just a lot. Like it was a lot to digest, and I don't know that anybody could have fully understood the ending the first time around. Or maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know, but
no,
it just felt like
that's what makes the game good, though. That's what makes the game good, because it's just like watching. I don't know if you guys are big Game of Thrones fans, but same deal. When you go back and rewatch Game of Thrones episodes, you always catch something else. You're like, oh, I remember. It all kind of comes together, and I think that's what makes a really good story. Is that when you or even like Interstellar, some of these great movies that you're like, whoa, you consume this content again, you keep learning about it, and I think that's what makes a really, really good story, especially when we're talking about it for so long. I love that.
I shit you not, though, man. I lost sleep over it. I went to
that's
bed.
Good. That's not a bad thing.
Like,
I mean, you were so upset.
I was upset because like I went to sleep with a frown on my face. I would just think, I was in bed just like frowning, sleeping, and I think I was just there for like an hour before I could finally go to sleep. And
but that gets an emotion out of you. You know, that's a good thing.
It even affected me the next day. Like the whole day, I was grumpy. And
I love that. That's so
I was explaining
good.
it to my wife. I'm like, babe,
Yeah.
they did this. Look at this shit.
Yeah.
They freaking. Does this make any sense to you? Like, you see her alive, and then she's dead, and then she's alive again, and then they keep going back and forth. So my poor wife had to deal with me, you know,
That's
kind of explaining all that. Yeah, but you know what? You're right. Like it gets you talking, it gets you analyzing and theorizing, and you know, everybody takes something different away from it. And you know, like somebody told me, hey, this is just the middle part. It's not the ending. So like, chill a little bit. So, and that's kind of what I've done. Like it's been over a month since I finished it, and I'm really starting to accept it, and I'm ready for chapter 3. So.
Man, she was always dead. She was always dead. It's the same thing that I talked about. It's Cloud's the unreliable narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's from his perspective. And at the end, when they're getting onto the Bronco again and about to take off, Barrett tells Cloud to get his shit together. Mm-hmm. And Cloud is sitting there and seeing Aerith with everybody else, but nobody's reacting to Aerith. It's very clear she's not actually there except for in Cloud's head. And she tells him once again about the sky, don't look up or whatever. And Cloud tells everybody else, don't look up. Cloud looks up and sees the little rainbow shimmering effect that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. Everybody else looks and sees nothing. Yeah. So I think that it was clear that I don't know what exactly happened to Aerith, but it's clear that she's dead at the end of the game to me.
Yeah, I think so too. But playing through it for the first time, I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure. But yeah,
that makes sense. But it's different than like Final Fantasy X with spoilers for Final Fantasy X. Auron, right? If you guys played, you know how he's dead. He's dead the whole entire game. Mm-hmm. But the side characters.
So's Tidus.
Oh yeah, they're both dead.
Why wouldn't they call him Tidus? Like Tidus.
I know. I like Tidus better than Tidus. I know.
Yeah, me too.
You know, water, tides, Tidus. Like,
that would have been way better. Yeah,
right.
That makes sense.
The rising Tidus
ball. But it's just, I'm saying it's different because Aerith is like dead. But if she is dead, you know, it's like they're not aware of her being there, so she's kind of a ghost compared to like Tidus or Tidus and Auron and the other characters in different games. So,
but when I don't know, that kind of fits my theory about the live stream though too, because Tidus and Auron were memories, right? And then they go back to and so for Cloud, Aerith is a memory, one that he hasn't accepted to let go yet. So he's still in that phase where he's not letting her go, and you know he's a fucking crazy guy.
About death, grief and death and all that stuff. I have to mention with Aerith's little speech about that, you know, about life and death and like going on and stuff, and how he talks about like the biggest gift you can give is like forgiveness, and like Cloud pretty much ruins it at the end. He's like, all right, so can we get going, you know? But I just love that speech. I think it's like one of my favorite moments in the entire game, just because I love that perspective, and it kind of reminds me, because I've had a lot of death and loss in my life and my family, and you know, kind of what she said in that speech kind of reminded me of something my mom would say, and I was like, oh man, this hit me really close to home emotionally. And I sent my mom the video. I was like, Mom, you gotta watch this. This totally reminds me of something you'd say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that part. It's like probably my favorite part in the whole game because of that emotional connection with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Shout out to Mom. Thanks, Mom.
All the moms in the world.
All the moms.
So yeah, that whole chapter where they're kind of going back, or everybody's kind of experiencing their trauma in life. Seeing Aerith as a kid trying to find somebody to help her mom on the street.
Oh, that was so devastating.
That was fucking sad, bro. Because like I'm picturing my kids like look at like I'm sick, I'm laying on the floor. They're trying to like help me, but they couldn't. And then she felt like she was a failure because nobody would help her, and like she's walking and asking everybody for help, and nobody would help her. And I just thought it was super sad. And then other scenes with like Barrett and Myrna, Red 13 at the lab, like it was just, you know, those scenes are powerful, and they weren't in the original game either. So
that's true. That's a really good part.
I got to give props to that whole scene.
Red 13 getting held down and getting all like stabbed and stuff and being tortured
unwillingly.
And, yeah, it's sad.
You know how part 3 is going to play out? The entire game, Cloud's going to have Aerith on his shoulder and Sephiroth as the devil. So we got the angel and the devil, and they're just going to constantly fucking talk in his ear.
Yeah, for sure.
He's going to go like full on bipolar schizophrenic. He's going to go nuts.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then we're going to have the battle between Zack, Cloud, and Angel, and then you're going to get to be able to control all of them and Sephiroth. And then you're going to have this big, awesome battle.
God, I hope not.
It's going to be great.
I know.
That's what I want. I want it so bad. I want to be able to, because we got to play as Zack for a little bit and Sephiroth in the beginning, right? And I loved playing those characters. That was like some of the coolest moments is playing as those characters. I was like, I want to play with them more. So
I think they made it clear that you'll be able to use Zack probably in the third game. That he made it a point of like, oh, if we came together once, maybe we can do it again or whatever. And he's like going to continue to do that.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about that because so if you remember that whole 10 phase boss fight, Zack fights a version of Sephiroth, and then he sees the meteor coming down on him, and then he gets teleported back to the church. So we don't know which timeline that is. I'm thinking it's the Rebirth timeline. So like he's gonna journey on like the rest of the. Yeah, I mean, because if you look at the flowers on the ground at the church, they're thriving. They're not dying.
But then he's gonna be dead like Aerith. Then Cloud's gonna be able to see him, but
I don't think he's dead.
Oh, really?
I think he's still alive at this point.
Okay.
You know, but he got transported back to the church, so we technically don't know what time
motherfucker's dead too. Baby.
Matt's theory.
He's a part of the live stream. He's part of the live stream, man.
It fits your theory, yeah.
I can't do the multiple worlds thing. There's no evidence that there's multiple worlds other than what Sephiroth has told you, and Sephiroth's a villain, so by nature you can't trust anything he says.
Which Marvel movie does that?
I think the best villains have the best backstories. Yeah. And he's explaining his logic and why he wants to do.
But that's not his backstory though. His backstory is he's from Genova.
Yeah.
And he wants to control the planet.
Alien race.
But I don't the multiple worlds thing, that's just him. I could see him trying to overcome what like Cloud did, but that's him knowing what happens or whatever. And just as the team is fighting fate, Sephiroth is also fighting fate as well.
Okay, so then you have to answer this question for me.
Sure.
I looked up, there was a Twitter user who looked up the Ultimania. There was a Rebirth Ultimania that was released in Japan only. And she was kind enough to translate some of it. So this is all official from the Square Enix devs. So
kind of. Well, but not really.
Well, it's in the book. It's just translated from the book.
And therein lies the problem.
Translation issues again.
The translation could be wrong.
Yeah,
okay, absolutely. So, Japanese to English is not a 1-to-1. We've seen that. That's why I refuse to play Ayuda Chronicles, because the localization is fucking dog shit.
Yeah, the localization. Yeah,
and that's an officially
it's been like that forever.
Not a lady who was kind enough to translate.
Right. But anyways, I want to hear
kind though. So in the FF7 Rebirth Ultimania, it confirms that there's at least 6 different worlds based on Stamp's appearance, with perhaps an unknown one as well, which is the place where Zack appears in the church at the end of the game. So if you're talking about your theory, how do you explain all the different dogs? Like what's the point of all that? There's so
many different dogs,
different perceptions from different people. The three of us can look at the same dog on the street and describe it in 3 different ways.
Yeah. But we have an image here. You see this image? There's dogs. There's
absolutely meaningless. Oh, yeah. Meaningless. Listen, again, my theory is predicated on not only is there memory and past and everything else, but there's also worlds built upon unrealized dreams, shattered dreams, and the perception of those events. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's just the dog. It could be as simple as Square Enix wants to let you know that it's different from the world before, and they don't want to do it through verbal expositions. They do it through imagery.
Yeah. We'll see,
You know,
man.
like Tori or Frenchie, you said, like they end up back in the church or whatever, and the flowers are thriving rather than being dead. You didn't need somebody to tell you this is a different world than before. You got a visual representation of it.
Yeah. Interesting, man. I hope they can churn it out in a couple of years, and we'll get.
I always like to play devil's advocate, bro. Like I always got to be like I got to be contrarian. I got to do it.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate
the more
it.
that we like churn our brains, then the more that we'll all be disappointed when it's something fucking stupid.
I hope it's not.
You know what's going to happen? We're all going to be wrong. It's going to be something completely different.
I mean, that's how these things go. So, I mean, that in mind, guys, I think we can kind of wrap this up, man, and kind of let's give our predictions for what we think will happen in the next game. Oh, real quick, I do want to touch on. Did you guys get the feeling that, or did you guys catch the kind of insinuation between Lodbrok and Rufus Shinra when, you know, it was the whole, the Wutai leader didn't show up? Did you see that Saruf is an anagram of Rufus?
Really?
No.
And then Lodbrok was saying when, you know, so it's theorized that along with the dialogue where Rufus wants to hire Cloud, Tifa, and them to get Sephiroth for him, that Rufus has actually been pocketbooking Avalanche to try to, like, you know,
start this whole thing
behind the scenes. Yeah. And when Rufus kind of teases Lodbrok, like, hey, like, why didn't your guy show up? And he's like, oh, you know, maybe next time we'll throw some money at the studio or whatever. You know, that's the kind of thing that, you know, rich kids like to see or whatever while he's looking at Rufus, kind of like insinuating. That's just a going theory out there that I think is kind of interesting. Because that was a confusing moment where you're just like, why the fuck didn't he? He just didn't show up. Yeah,
I was kind of baffled by the whole Glenn Lodbrok just being in the game. Just, you know, considering his origin.
He's a character from Ever Crisis
and First Order, which was the mobile game that came out many years ago.
That no one played.
Yeah, nobody played it.
Yeah.
I think it might have.
I mean, it turned out he was a guy in a black robe. It was Genova and really Sephiroth that was like controlling that whole situation.
What do we have? Fascinating. So I think everything is just going to end up playing like the original. I feel like everything that's happened this far, it's kind of deviating. It's trying to get you confused, but at the very end, we're still going to see the meteor fall down. We're going to see Aerith come out and call the live stream and holy or whatever and save the planet. It's boring, but I feel like everything that's happened, it's just a distraction. It's to kind of get you thinking and, you know, and possibly making you realize that this is a different game, a different story, the different outcome. But I think everything's just going to kind of go back to being linear and finishing off the same way the original did. What do you think, Tori?
I hate to say it, but with how big this game is, I think they're going to make the third one even bigger. If that makes sense. Like, this thing has so much damn content in it. I'm thinking, because remember when you got into Sid's, what do they call it? The plane, the boat, you know?
Tiny Bronco?
The Tiny Bronco, yeah.
Yeah, the Tiny Bronco. And you had to go to the last area. Like, that took fucking forever. Like, going through the world map, I was just like, because I haven't done, like, all the content that you guys done, but I just feel like with you guys are talking about, like, the Emerald and Ruby monsters, or what do you want to call them, and then at the end, you remember that Hojo and the Shinra guy, they were talking, like, he asked him, like, what should we do about you know, the those monsters that when Tifa, you know, landed into the live stream. And Hojo was like, I think we need to, like, invest a lot more time into these, right? You remember that scene at the very end?
Was it in the helicopter?
In the helicopter. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's going to be this big climactic, like, Final Fantasy 16 kind of thing with all these, like, giant monsters battles and all this crazy stuff that's going to be really over the top and awesome, to be honest.
So
but then I think I'm going to agree with you too. It's going to kind of turn back into the original game.
You're saying it's going to be like Endgame, where freaking Angel shows up, Genesis shows up, everybody's going to help fight against Sephiroth.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but they're all going to be dead, and they're not really going to be there.
And then Elmira's going to wake up, and it's just been her dream this whole time.
Yeah, because I think with all the previous Final Fantasy VII spin-offs and content, like they're all going to. I'm hoping, they probably won't. But the idea that they're going to kind of close it all, I don't know. But Final Fantasy VII is so big for Square Enix that they might keep making stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be great.
I think they're gonna do. I don't know, man. I don't know how they'd make the game bigger. They'd have to stretch out a lot because there's only a few more locations to go. Like
Icicle Land.
They're gonna have to go. They're gonna start the game north, right, in the snow. They're gonna end up eventually in the northern crater. They're gonna have that whole thing there where Sephiroth finally gets the black materia and Cloud goes to Mediel, and the rest of the party. Where do they end up?
So after the northern crater, they go back to Junon because the weapons are out in the wild.
That's right. But Cloud isn't with them.
No, he fell into the
they go back. They actually make their way all the way back to Midgar. That's right, because Shinra is going to make their final stand at Midgar. I think they're arrested, right? Are they arrested? When Weapon attacks Shinra,
they parachute into Midgar.
Okay.
Remember, and then the cannon got moved from Junon to Midgar.
Yeah, that's right, to make their last stand against the weapon. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But there's not a ton of locations left.
Well, this is the thing.
Rocket Town they have to go to.
This is why I think it's going to be bigger. Not that I know there's not too much left to explore in the world, but I think with the multiverse theory and Matt, your live stream theory, they can make alternative endings. So just like Chrono Trigger, which I think we should all play.
I started it today.
I think we should definitely play that together and talk about it. Because in that game, there's multiple endings, a lot of alternative endings. Same with Nier Automata. So I think they're going to make the game to where you can go down different paths.
You couldn't help fillet that game again, could you?
I love that. That's my favorite game,
4 for
man.
4.
Oh, yeah. Every podcast, I'm going to talk about it. But you're going to get to see alternative endings to Final Fantasy VII.
I wouldn't be surprised because anything is possible now.
I know.
Aerith is dead, right? But she's probably alive in another world, and they can just bring her back.
And Jill's back.
Yes,
Genesis is back.
I would think that you could see maybe peaks of other realities or whatever, but I think that we are going to end up back at the original timeline ending.
Yeah.
You'll have to fight to get to that point, and maybe you can do flesh out some of the stuff with Zack or whatever. But for sheer size, I don't know that they would make this one much bigger. People are already, certain crybabies out there already crying that it's too much content, which is preposterous in a capitalist society that your $70 for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth gets you the same as your $70 to play some fucking
that's true
like Madden game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's the whole complaint of it's too much. I'm like, who the fuck are you people? Like, don't ruin it for the rest of us that actually like all this stuff. You can golden path this shit, and if you don't want to do that, then that's your failing. Don't take away from other people because you have a defect with how you play. That's just how I feel about it.
I have to counteract that because the video game consumer, right? You guys are way more hardcore. I'm going to just admit it. You're way more hardcore video gamers than I am. I'm the kind of gamer who I will take a game and I will play it 5-10 years later and enjoy it. And I don't really follow the hype anymore. I haven't done that since Final Fantasy X. But this is like the first time I've done this, like in a long, long time. And it's been enjoyable. Like it's been awesome talking to you guys about it at work. And be like, this is cool. And I love this podcast talking about the, theorizing all this stuff. But, I think it's the same with nowadays with television, with movies. You like with YouTube, you can kind of create your own world, right? You can consume the content you want to consume on the time you want to. We don't have to wait every Friday night to watch the new episode of whatever anymore, you know? And so my consumption of this content, it would have been better if I would have, you know, waited and blah, blah. I probably would have consumed it more. But talking about it like we have tonight, it's got me, like, I want to go back and play. I want to finish. I didn't even finish Queen's Blood and then finish that. So, you know, I probably will get that itch again, right? But it's going to be a little while. But
I guess the thing that I'm saying is that when people go, oh, this game's too long, and then the devs go, okay, we'll make it shorter, when a lot of that content was like not required to beat the game, then you're taking away from people that really do want to explore it to the very last pixel. And I think that that's something that is a little unfair of people to do, but like, you know, that's just my opinion on it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think, because if you do the golden path, I don't think that it's badly paced at all. You know, I think that just a lot of people did like what we all did at the beginning, and we're like, oh, I'm going to do everything in the grasslands before I move on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to do everything in Junon. And then by the time you get to the third one, you're like, all right, fuck, dude, I've been playing this game for like 50 hours. Can this shit just like go? Because you burnt yourself out on this stuff that you didn't have to do.
I totally did. Yes, I agree. But I didn't get to play against you guys. You fight Gilgamesh, right?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, I didn't even do that. Like, I was like watching a video. I'm like, oh, Gilgamesh is in this.
But that's the
dope.
thing.
I want to play that. I know, but it's content
if you
that I think is cool.
If you want to, you can.
Right. But I feel like I'm not getting as much out of it as I would have like mainstreamed it. You know, like I feel like that the side content I feel is rarely good, right? Would you agree that the side content is good?
Sure. Yeah, most of it is.
So I'm not getting as much of an experience as you two are.
That makes me think that the complaint is even more like, what is everybody complaining about? If most of the side content is good, and if you go back and, I mean, Frenchie, you played Remake right before this, dude. Remake side quests are dog shit. They're terrible,
and there was only a handful of them too.
Yeah,
right. It was bad. This like most of the stuff people like, and the stuff you do or you don't like, don't do. Like, I can't stand Fort Condor. I don't want to play that game under the current rules.
See, I like Fort Condor.
I just don't want to play it with the time limit. Like, the time limit to me is stupid. You know, I had more fun with Gears and Gambits. You know,
see, I didn't even get to Gears
with
you wouldn't even get
Queen's
to
Blood.
Gambit.
With Queen's Blood, I had a lot of fun. You know, some of the other mini games or whatever. Maybe you can do something where like you put all that stuff in one location. Like every side event is at Gold Saucer, right? And then the rest of it maybe is not as whatever.
Right.
You know, the thing where I think they could tone it down is just Chadley always fucking bothering you. That was like 5 hours of the game they could have took off if he just leaves you the fuck alone. You know what I mean? Like,
he essentially says the same thing every time you do something.
Over and over and over again. If he would have just told you that first time at the Chocobo Ranch, hey, this is the stuff I need in all these different regions. Can you go and do this stuff for me? And then you automatically got the rewards rather than like, oh, how many level up points do I need to develop this material with Chadley? If it just automatically happened and he was like, boom, materia for you. That would have made it a lot better and shorter.
A simple thanks, bro, would have sufficed from Chadley.
Exactly. Lastly, on my theory of how it goes, I do think that there'll be some big moment, right, that resets the timeline. There'll be like this final climactic thing. I think that's we're gonna fight Safer Sephiroth because we fought Bizarro Sephiroth in this one, so we'll get Safer Sephiroth or like some version of him. But here's my super tinfoil hat conspiracy theory.
Oh, here we go. I'm excited.
This game, this remake trilogy will finish with the timeline being restored. Okay. And 6 months after the game is released and Square Enix has gotten sales, they'll be like, all right, guys, we're releasing a shot-for-shot Final Fantasy VII actual remake. Because they have all of the stuff that they need to do it. They'll cut out all of the remake stuff and give you the actual pure Final Fantasy VII shot-for-shot remake that everybody's been wanting. They just want
that'd be amazing.
And they would sell
that's a good
so many
idea.
fucking copies if they.
Oh, dude, I would. Yes,
It wouldn't even take long to put together because they have everything shot.
So
That's
do you
true.
mean like take the same scenes that are in the game and just kind of recut
and cut
it?
out all of the bullshit, all of the stuff
That'd
that
be
they added,
amazing.
all of the whisper stuff, everything
Yeah.
else, and just give you a shot for shot, dialogue for dialogue remake of the original game.
Like an original.
And then they'll ruin it.
Yeah,
they'll ruin it and put it on it as an iOS game.
Yeah,
they already did that with
release it. I know exactly. Yeah, they did that, and with Final Fantasy.
But that's my my tinfoil conspiracy theory that they'll actually
that'd be
do it
sick.
like that.
I would
random thought here. Do you think Zach is going to join up with the group?
Yes,
in part 3.
At some point, yes, but like I said, that'll be all as like Sephiroth is my theory. As Sephiroth is kind of controlling and poisoning the live stream, that a lot of the barriers of these like different memories and worlds that people have or dream of or whatever will be consumed with what like Sephiroth and what more, evil things are out and about with,
Yeah.
But
well,
because like it can't end. It can't end. Like there can't be a multiverse and then you end up in the same spot that the original game did. That can't happen.
Yeah, like then what was the whole point of bringing Zach back?
Right.
Like, he has to have an influential part of the story going forward.
Right, but if you look at it from the fact that instead of like multiple worlds, Zach's alive, where it's that like no, he's just in the live stream and his connection with Aerith has led him to kind of try to counteract what Sephiroth is doing. It's like the whole planet is fighting against essentially what's an interloper. I do have to amend. Sephiroth technically could return to the live stream because Hojo's his father, but whatever.
Yep,
but
Hojo's his daddy. And Vincent's love interest.
But Genesis and Angeal. Okay, so how is Sephiroth significant from those two guys again from Crisis Core? I can't remember. You remember? Like, are they all from Genova? Is every soldier from Genova?
First class, I believe it is.
Okay. Genesis, Angeal, Sephiroth.
There was just different iterations of it, you know?
Well, yeah.
It's confusing, right? It's convoluted.
Sephiroth is like the original, and he was like birthed using Genova cells, Hojo cells through an intermediary, Lucretia, who is Sephiroth's birth mother, also the love interest of Vincent Valentine. Whereas like Cloud is a Sephiroth, like he was injected with like clone cells of Sephiroth. So was Zach, but most of the regular soldiers are like not. So like, if
the regular soldiers just have Mako.
They just have Mako. If you look at it, Roche went back to Hojo to get injected with Genova cells, and that's why he turned so quickly. So a lot of these have been experimented on. That's why they have the tattoos, the Hojo tattoos. Like Cloud doesn't have any tattoos. Zach doesn't have the tattoos. It's a Hojo experiment where he's like trying to inject Genova cells, but soldiers are just soldier first class get like Mako infusions.
Yeah, and I think in Crisis Core they labeled them. I think like Sephiroth was like the S prototype, and Genesis was the G version of it. Or
we saw where Cloud was from in Nibelheim in Shinra Manor. And that's when Vincent fights them. He's like, "What? I don't remember telling you could be in here.
Like, what are you doing in here?"
Yeah, and that's where Cloud was. So,
Hey, so when do you think you'll get this platinum? Like by the end of the year?
Probably by the end of the year. Yeah,
I just can't wait.
In game time, it'll still be faster than yours.
It's not about how fast you do it, okay, bro? No, I just can't wait till you get to the brutal and the legendary combat sims, because you're saying you're enjoying yourself now, and then you're gonna play those anus twists.
Bro, I'm good at FromSoft games, man. I'm good at FromSoft games. This shit is not gonna be harder than
this is not a FromSoft. It's nothing like it.
It is. It's exactly like it. It is exactly like it. You have to find a way to mitigate boss damage and debuffs while also being able to buff yourself to do enough damage to the boss in a meaningful amount of time.
I love it.
Also, you have to make use of a parry mechanic, which negates boss damage, which is exactly like a Souls game.
Yeah, but you have to have the right materia going into these battles, otherwise you don't stand a chance.
That's why I'm going to do that stuff last and get every single piece of materia prior to that point. And then I'm going to go online because I have no fucking shame and get the most busted ass fucking builds. And I'm going to bust that thing out so fast and so easy breezy, unfrustratingly. I'm going to come up on here with a little extra hair on my chest, a little bass in my voice, and being like, that shit was easy.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. Or I could be like, nah, I fucking gave up on that shit. Fuck that shit. Either way.
Well, the thing
That's
is,
awesome.
some of it was RNG. Like you just get unlucky runs. It doesn't happen too often.
Sure.
Like for instance, I had one round where like I got 10 rounds deep. Odin, like the second command he does is Zentetsuken and just wipes out my entire party. And so I had to start the whole fucking thing over again. Thankfully that particular instance I casted re-raise on all my on the Cloud and Sephiroth. So I was able to actually survive it, but it just kind of like fucked up my whole strategy. It's definitely you're gonna definitely like go through it and learn like what you need to do.
Oh sure, but here's the other thing too with FromSoft games. A lot of that's RNG too. And bro, you die. You die and die and die and die.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of the game, like it's like a humble brag on From Software's part. 8 million player deaths in Demon Souls 3 this week or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I remember
or whatever. It's just like fuck, dude. Like,
yeah.
And that happened. That happened a lot. I remember Elden Ring, Malekith the Blackblade, like that motherfucker, because every other boss was kind of like a little more slow and plodding, except for Milena. She was dope, but that one, he was just all over the place, super agile, 2 stages. The second stage became even more difficult. I died on that guy. I think I tried to beat that guy for like a week straight, and I was just like, this is not happening. I don't know what's going on, and I was able to get past it eventually. But I don't know. Part of it is I thrive in the frustrating and the uncomfortable because I feel like it's making me better.
Yeah, I was caught off guard because I didn't realize like that they went this hard on it. This is probably the hardest platinum I've ever got, like harder than Elden Ring or Dark Souls.
I saw, PSN profiles, right? They do that, like all the platinum guides or whatever. They rated this as an 8 out of 10 platinum for sure. So it's one of the more difficult ones. But,
yeah, I'd probably say it's like a 9 out of 10. It's fucking nuts.
What's a 10 out of 10 platinum? Like, what would be a game that
like Super Meat Boy or something?
Oh, okay, yeah, one of those. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Let's see if I can look it up real quick.
It was excruciatingly hard. It could have been remedied, because a lot of the brutal and legendary challenges are 10 phases. If they would have just said, "Hey, well, if you die on phase 7, you can just restart from there," and that would have totally
made
it fine.
Let you do that. You
start
all the way over.
So you could be like 15-20 minutes into a run and get cheap shot, and you would get wiped out in one fucking hit.
Yeah,
and you got to start all over again.
Dude.
So it's a learning process.
Yeah,
I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like it's like a dungeon crawler, like Hades, like those kind of games where you just keep playing it over and over and over until you get farther in it. I kind of like those with the story, but I'm more story driven game. Like I'm a more story driven video game player nowadays versus you guys like platinuming things and breaking the game. I think that's really cool, but yeah, it's great. I love hearing about this from you too, because I'm like, dang man, it's kind of motivating to like get in it and just like dig away and carve at it.
I don't recommend it though. I don't recommend.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like I'd rather live vicariously through you two, because I'm like, I want to play other games.
Did you play Hades on Switch?
Yes.
Yes, I played the Hades 2 technical test on
on
Steam.
You did. How was it?
It's pretty fucking good, man. Like,
dude, I'm stoked that you got to do that.
It's essentially the same game. You know, like there isn't too much difference. Like it has the same formula. You're kind of doing your runs and you're upgrading things and unlocking things as you go. So the base formula is still there. I'm not, it's obviously just the first boss. So I don't know if they added anything meaningful, but it's essentially the first game, just, a different layer of paint,
more story.
Yeah. And the first game was great. So like there's really no reason to rework the whole thing. So if you like the first one, you're definitely going to like the second one.
Oh hell yeah, I'll buy that.
I loved it
for sure. That's gonna be great.
Did you find some games for us? 10 out of 10.
I mean, there's a bunch of games that have like 0% completion on the platinum, but let's see.
Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus. That's a good one.
Ooh,
because you have to beat the
Okay.
entire game on the hardest difficulty, and if you die at any point, you have to start the whole entire game over.
Oh wow!
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth actually has a higher average platinum than Final Fantasy VII Remake does. Believe it or not.
Like a higher percentage?
Higher percentage of people have the platinum trophy, yeah.
That's pretty shocking.
Wow.
Considering how long it takes to get it. That's shocking.
Oh, dang. And that's crazy because with the sales were lower than Remake too. So
I think that lets you know that like there's harder completion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like a Crash Bandicoot 4. That's actually really hard, believe it or not.
Is it really? Well, we were talking about the Wolfenstein or whatever. The like that sounds like they're making a platinum for like speedrunners or something. You know what I mean?
Or just like the ultra hardcore people.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 16's platinum rate is even lower than both of those. Only 4% of people have gotten the Final Fantasy 16 platinum.
Jeez.
Wait, 4% got it?
4%.
What's the percentage for Remake?
Remake. Let me check. And I actually was a little off. So Rebirth is less than Remake. Remake's let's see.
Rebirth went up a little bit. So
what the fuck?
So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it's
2.2. Oh, never mind. 2.7% for Remake.
Okay, Rebirth is 1.1%.
Yeah.
When I beat it, it was 0.5%. So definitely people are catching up.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, right on.
We'll get there.
Crazy. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Good
all right,
talk.
guys. That covers it. That was listen, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm gonna play that game again. I know I am. I don't even care that it's hella long. I platinum Persona 5 the Royal. I platinum Persona 5 and Persona 5 the Royal. I played that game for like 500 hours. Like I don't.
That's insane. That's great.
So, before we leave, I don't know if you guys like to give numerical scores, but what would you give it out of 10?
Oh yeah, good point. I'd say honestly, 10 out of 10. I mean, I hate it, but it's 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah, I would 9, like a 9.5 for me, and the 0.5 is really just the technical issues.
Yeah.
And Chadley, that fucking I hate
Chadley.
Yeah. I'd probably go a 9.
9.
Yeah.
What would be a game that you give 10 out of 10?
The Last of Us.
Need a comparison. The Last of Us? Okay.
That's what he would say. Yeah.
The original FF7.
The original FF7?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
See, I couldn't give that one a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, there's definitely it's not a perfect
it's limited
game.
by its age. A 10 out of 10 game for me would be something like Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It would be something like
Britney's Dance Beat.
No.
Connect Sports.
No, something that surprises you in unexpected ways. Something that's like a technical marvel for me. It would be like Red Dead Redemption 2, which is like the physics and things that you can do in that game that you don't even think about until it happens are just preposterous.
Did you play it on PC or PS4?
I played it on both.
Okay, because I couldn't do the 30 FPS aiming. The aiming was so janky in that game, I stopped.
Yeah. Oh no, on PC it's nice.
Yeah.
No, I can play that like 4K with like an unlocked frame rate now, but it's so sweet, dude. And then the PC, you get the modding community too.
Yeah.
A 10 out of 10 game for me would be like, Super Mario 3.
Yeah.
Just something that's very seminal and like it's hard to poke holes. I think 10 out of 10s are getting harder to do. I think that when you go back in time that, Tetris, 10 out of 10 game, like easily a 10 out of 10 game. Tetris is incredible.
Classic.
But,
yeah.
Ageless.
Chess, 10 out of 10. No, I'm just kidding.
Ageless.
Yeah. Right on.
I get you.
Well, cool. That's let's see. That's an average 9.5 then for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, according to the Pixel Playground. So Pixel Playground approved. It's going off the big slide. But yeah, man, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Any last words for the audience before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm hoping if they ever re-release Rebirth that they put it on the back of the box that Pixel Playground 9.5.
Game of the Year
Yeah.
edition.
Game of the Year.
Game it. There you go.
Great. Yeah.
All right,
That was
fellas.
good.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Thanks everybody for watching. We hope you had fun here tonight. I know that we did. And I hope we see you swinging again into the Pixel Playground the next time. So for Frenchie, for Tori, for myself, I want to thank you and have a great evening. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.